So Courtney, how does that work as far as when you're interpreting a song? Because we know the words, and you're giving us signs that it could be like this, or you could do it like this. So
yes.
So deaf people don't really know the actual words.
A lot of times, okay, like at church, then we'll have the words up there. But like we talked about, the sky is falling down. That doesn't really mean the sky is literally falling down. So if I signed, the sky is falling down, or like breaking down or something like that, then it's not clear. So I have a couple different options for how I want to interpret it. So I'd maybe say when there's trouble and there's problems and there's so many things happening, and I would interpret it that way. Or someone else would just say,
your world is falling
when
apart.
it's happening bad, what do? Call on Jesus. Maybe they'd interpret it that way. So both things convey the concept, but it uses my personality. So like in the Bible we have God inspired all of it, but it doesn't sound all the same because he inspired it to that person, and that person wrote down with the language that they use to the audience that they're going for, the way they say things, their personality is in it. So in the same way, then I take that and I decide how I want to do it. So somebody can look at that and go, oh, you signed that completely wrong. But really when it comes down to it, there's like 1,000,001 ways that you can sign it. So it kind of just depends on your personality. If you're going for super ASL, like love, not proud, not egotistical, that's very ASL. Whereas a lot of my songs that I've signed in the past are I can only imagine, and it follows pretty much every word. So it kind of just depends on, you know, and then like how much I've thought about that. Like the song that they do for worship a lot now, All My Fountains Are in You. What's it talking about?
My life is in you.
My life?
Yeah.
What else could it be talking about?
My trust.
My
Faith.
trust, my faith,
Strength.
Whenever I was up there, it was the first time that they'd signed it, and I was like, all of my fountains, it's not talking about water. All my fountains, all my, and then they're like, oh, blessings. So all of my blessings are from you, are in you, are in you. Okay, but you could totally go with all of my faith. You could change it every time if you want to. All of my faith, all of my trust, all of my hope, my expectancy. You could do anything that you want to. All of my joy, everything. All of my everything is in you. You could explain it that way. So it really just depends on how you want to interpret it. And a lot of the thing is too, with songs, we like songs that have like the cool wording or like the awesome way to say it. Like, yeah, you could say like, oh yeah, all my faith is in you. Or you could be like, all of my fountains are in you. And it just has like this thing that attracts us to it, like, oh, that sounds so good. Or like, it that one, he is jealous for me. He loves like a hurricane, I am the tree. Okay, so are we really talking about, I'm like a tree, and God comes and he's a hurricane, and we're talking about like a love that's overwhelming and is just all around us and is completely consuming. But if we talked about a hurricane, then it kind of sounds like maybe it's a bad thing if you really like, if I talked about like, oh, love is like a hurricane and blah, 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 you know what I mean? So you have to get the point, like we look at that and we're like, man, love's like a hurricane, I'm the tree, like, and we get that. And so in the same way that we get that from hearing the words and the way that we say it and the intonation and inflection on the words, the same way that you want to convey it in ASL. So that's why, yeah, it's like the spirit of it, the concept, that's really what you're going for. So I can say you, and I can sign everything just like that. I can only imagine when that day happens and I meet Jesus. Or I can be like, I can imagine it and your eyes light up and you can just see it like on your face what's really happening when you see the joy and the excitement. And that's the thing, because they don't hear the words. They don't, you know, maybe they feel the vibration, that kind of thing, but what connects it is the idea, the picture that you're painting, and that's really what you're going for. So whatever you can use to paint the picture,
so you're trying to give them the emotion too.
Yeah, and it does. It conveys emotion, so that's why you use a lot of facial expressions, and you really like pouring it out. You don't just like stand there with a smile and like sign it. You really want to like, you know, like that's the point. Like getting the emotion out and explaining it. Like, if you do this song right, it'll be just as amazing in ASL as we hear it when we like, oh man, he's strumming and it's talking about love is like this and it's like a river that flows through. Because I could say like, oh yeah, love like enters your heart. But if I'm like, love, it's like, and it goes like into your heart and it's overflowing, like that's a beautiful picture of something that's happening. Just like the song is painting that beautiful picture with what we're hearing, the words that we're using, we paint the same one in ASL, just using different tools. So does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah. Did that answer all of it, or was there another part?
No, but do you have to figure that out like right on the spot when you're hearing the music? Or
It
does
depends.
give you an idea of what they're going to play? Right?
A lot of times, I know that there is some way that the choir has the songs, and so as interpreters, then we can kind of get access to it. I never actually figured it out, so most of my stuff is either on the spot or it's songs that I knew beforehand. So like this song, I didn't know it very well. I'd like heard it a couple times, but to go through and figure out the meaning, I sat down and typed up the exact meaning of it. What is it really talking about? Is it talking about love? The one that I said, oh, it says love does not keep locked inside. Doesn't keep what locked inside? Doesn't like, okay, doesn't block out the world. Okay, but what's an easier way that I can convey that? Oh, love doesn't ignore. It doesn't ignore. So if I'm up there and I'm signing it, then it might just be all of my faith is in you, you know, and it still works. But maybe after I've thought it through, then I can come up with some beautiful picture of it. So some of my stuff totally is on the spot. As an interpreter, like here, they usually have what they call a feeder, which is the person that sits down the front row that doesn't stand, and their entire focus is doing exactly what the interpreter is. So if I ever get stuck and I'm like, all of my fountains, got any ideas? And she can go, blessings. And I go, yeah, all of my blessings are in you, and I can keep going. Or if I'm like signing and I'm like, what did she just say? Then she can like sign like, oh, it was Romans 3:23 she's talking about. And I can be like, oh yeah, okay, and then I can keep going on. So you have someone like feeding you the information. So sometimes it's helpful to have something like that. Sometimes you just look at the words and go, okay, God, what would you like to convey through this song?